The Persistence is a first-person stealth survival horror roguelike/roguelite game from Firesprite. What a bloody mouthful. These guys are from Liverpool, based in the UK, so alright lads. It's available to be played in both VR and on a normal screen, so we're going to be considering it from both perspectives. The questions, I suppose, are, can you survive the Persistence, and do you want to? Have a look. The Persistence. While the name is related to the game's lore, it's almost more a description of the player. Specifically, what you're going to need to see this through. Persistence. And patience. And possibly some brown rubber safety pants. While the game is branded as a sci-fi horror, it isn't scary per se, it's more a little bit tense. Although I did succeed in making the whole group jump during one of the moments last night when we sat down to review it, and that was pretty special.
Jesus!
Of course, your mileage is going to vary depending on how resistant you are to being made jump. Let me quickly set the scene for you then. I'm going to try and keep details light so that if you do end up with a copy of the game, then there's still plenty for you to learn yourself. You're the last survivor-ish on a space station that's packed with advanced tech and a seeming desire to mangle you. The environment isn't innately hostile, but it changes every time you die, so you're never going to be able to know which wall panel wants to explode your face or which corridor has an electronic malfunction. You'll end up gaining strength over time via the collection of stem cells, and then you'll die. A lot. That's not particularly punishing though. You will respawn, quotes, in quite a novel sense, and be able to augment yourself further to better withstand the next run, and off you go again to your inevitable demise. I think that paints quite a broad picture of the experience at hand. Aesthetically speaking, Persistence is kind of average for this day and age. Light and shadows do play a huge part in the ambience and scene building. Half the tension you're going to experience as you play through is as a result of the lighting. Dark rooms feeling really dark, it leaves you fumbling your way around, you can't turn your light on in case there's an enemy, so all you have is the glow of consoles which cast occasional shadows and silhouettes, which gives you a stark reminder that you're not alone. Now, on a screen this works okay, but in VR I think this is going to be excellent. It would make for a really unnerving experience. Sound then. Enemies sound, well, I hate to say the word generic, but kinda. It's all kind of par for the course, like, you know, zombie moans, rage noises, kinda screamy creatures. It's just traditional horror, nothing seems to be particularly new or inventive. Explosions and firearms, they feel a little bit underwhelming. They're sort of flat and it's quickly dissipated. You would imagine that being close to the explosion within the confines of a spaceship, there'll be reverberations, metal sounds, you know, flutter echo, you get that tinnitus ring in your ear when a loud bang's gone off, but there's none of that. There's nothing that particularly stands out here versus other titles, but it is worth noting that as you push on, things start to get a little bit crazier, and the sound then really does build up the tension as you go through, you know, the ship moaning and groaning, the enemies, hazardous effects. I don't want to give too much away, but it all does lend itself to the feeling of tension that you have as you play through. The mechanics of the Persistence are a bit of an ambivalent one, really, mainly due to the way this game is so heavily focused towards being VR. I mean, you can play it with a controller as if it was a standard game. This leaves it feeling, on controller at least, quite disjointed. Looking at things activates them, requiring no interaction at all from you as the player. Now you could say, oh cool, auto loot. But when all you want to do is hide behind a cupboard to avoid being seen, and then you accidentally open the cupboard, which reveals a grenade that's about to go off, well, that's the end of you. And I really don't like that. Now don't get me wrong, I did become accustomed to it, quite quickly in fact, as we were playing through, but it always felt odd, never just felt as it was supposed to be. We feel that this could have quite easily been remedied, really, with the unused buttons on the controller or keys on the keyboard being utilised instead, which then at least gives you the option to open things. As I said, if all you're doing is seeking cover, you don't need that grenade going off in your chops. The addition of the companion app is a cool and kind of interesting feature, although it does feel a bit held back, given that it's necessary to be on the same network as the person playing the main game. With it, you're able to play as the ship's AI, allowing you to either aid your compatriot in spotting enemies, helping them, or even hindering them with environmental effects. You could guide them through the level, which, all in all, is an interesting concept for perhaps a group of friends, but kind of useless on your own. Combat, I hate to say it, is a little vanilla. It's a simple parry block counter, which, okay, it feels okay, does become monotonous quite quickly. this is spiced up by some really cool single-use items that you can find along the way, including firearms, which are sadly awkward to use. To keep with the firearms just for 1 minute, there's no aim-down sight. The UI often gets in the way of seeing how much ammo is left. Not that that is actually the ammo that's left. The number displayed on the gun is not the amount of shots you have left, if you can see it when the UI isn't getting in the way. Obviously in VR this isn't going to be a problem, but it's a bit of an oversight when taking it to like the normal PC. Upgrading and crafting stations are dotted around also, so you can make a few handy items to keep yourself going for that little bit longer, with enough variety to keep it kinda fresh. Crafting them requires special credits to use, which of course forces you to go out of your way and explore, experiencing more of the game. However, you only have 2 active item slots, which means you have to go back into your inventory every time you get something new, because it auto-equips it, and oh my god, that's a frustrating thing. A choice was clearly made in favour of an A-B-A-B solution, rather than something such as an A-B-C-D-A-B circular solution, and that might be preferable if the newly collected item wasn't automatically equipped every time. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not a game breaker, but it is clearly obvious that a better solution could have been devised. All in all, as you play, you are almost constantly reminded that its primary focus is on VR. It's a VR title. It almost feels as though playing it with a controller on a screen was an afterthought. I mean, okay, most of the time you can overlook it and just continue playing, but every time you're reminded it's just a little more annoying. As I've mentioned, there are frustrations, and they are a bit of a put-off while playing, meaning it's harder to pick back up once you put it down. But the game does become a bit more compelling the longer you play, as you start to build that need to get one room further or to beat that new enemy that just caved your head in. It's just the way with roguelites, isn't it? The drive. However, this does feel a little less apparent on a screen than I imagine it would in VR, where all that added immersion is going to give that extra something. In conclusion then, there's a feel of Dead Space, which is ever present as we play through the loops, and while the main game, so to speak, isn't huge, there are a variety of options to keep you going once you've done it. There's a nice quirk involving the app, as I mentioned before, and there are various different game modes too. On to the scores then. We are going to have to break this into 2, one for playing with a controller and one as a VR experience. So, playing it with a controller, the persistence is going to score a 6. As a VR experience, it gets a 7. Would we recommend it? Well, that's going to depend on how you play it. For £25 with a controller, no. We'd probably recommend waiting until it was closer to the £10 or £15 mark. If you have a VR setup though, and if you're looking for a survival or roguelike, then yeah, we would recommend it. We found ourselves having a laugh, it was really fun, but at the same time we weren't overly bothered when it came time to turn it off. So, there we have it, our thoughts on the persistence. Sound off in the comments if you've got something that you wanted to add, and other than that, thank you guys for watching. See you later.